wasn't, obviously very close to family, and you get notified on pretty short notice. So my family actually wasn't able to make my debut in Vancouver, but my girlfriend was there. So like in that sense, like she's been a part, like with me for a long part of this journey and through a lot of the ups and downs. So that was really special. And then I think coming here and, I was actually in St. Louis, having a lot of family here, starting a game, playing at a packed city park as an away player. I think having all of them there for me was like incredibly special.
Welcome to a new edition of the City Voice podcast. I am joined by a very special guest today, Simon Becher. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me.
We were looking forward to having you. When your name first got announced in the rumor mill, fans were very, very excited. I know you've got some ties to St. Louis, so we're going to chat through that. But before we get into that, there are some quick fire questions that we've got from the fans. At Lou Boys SC, what was your biggest takeaway from your time in Denmark? How does the style compare to MLS?
Yeah, I think a very different style, much more physical, I think. And it was, for me, a really good experience to, have to adapt to that. And I think, getting used to playing a lot of minutes and playing in a lot of games. So I think for me going over there, that was a big portion of it to, kind of trying to test myself and kind of get that experience and a lot of minutes and games under my belt. And yeah, I think it helped me honestly a lot.
Fantastic. Phil Grooms asks, there are Betchers in several phases of recent soccer history. Can he help us better understand who they were and to what degree they were St. Louis residents? Or to what degree can you claim them?
I know, obviously, my cousin Ryan Becher, he plays for the second team. I don't think he ever lived in St. Louis, but him and his brother, I know, both played in college. Jackson, they both played at UMBC. My younger brother played in college at Hartford. He just graduated. I think my grandfather and my uncle, both Bill Becher, they're both in the St. Louis Soccer Hall of Fame, I believe. So definitely two big ties there. And yeah, I think in my mind, probably what I can think of.
Nice. Hope that answers your question, Phil. Matt Baker, same podcast. Hard hitting, you say, better state, Missouri or Kansas? You don't have to answer that if it's too spicy for you.
Missouri, easily.
There we go, Matt. Hannah Choi, what did you do or experience that made you feel like a real St. Louisan?
I mean, growing up, obviously coming here a lot in the summers in my off time with my family, both sets of grandparents were still in St. Louis. So just a lot of early memories, going to the zoo, Forest Park, just doing a lot of things, going to Cardinals games. Yeah, I think for me, that kind of brings back a lot of memories just being around the city and from my time in college as well.
Fantastic. And STL City Ultra, what's one thing he thinks needs to happen for the MLS to attract more young players who have opportunities to play in Europe?
Yeah, I think, there's so much talent in the U.S. I think you can see it in so many different ways, people coming through a bunch of different pathways, whether it's college, whether it's through academies. I think the question's asking for U.S. citizens maybe to find their way to Europe. And yeah, just, you can see so many players getting opportunities and, through Next Pro and, into the first teams and, guys going over and having successes in Europe. And I think, yeah, there's so many examples. And, I think just to continue to get players opportunities and get MLS minutes. Yeah, I think obviously the whole world's kind of looking at MLS now for talent, and a lot of guys are having success overseas. So yeah, I just think continuing to get opportunities.
Do you think there's an interest in some of the US players that are outside in Europe in coming back to MLS with 2026 top of mind?
Yeah, I think for sure. And I think you can see kind of the soccer culture around the country, just the general excitement and feeling behind it going into that World Cup. And, obviously MLS has grown so much in the past, even, 5, 3, 2 years. And I think it's a great place to be. And I think, with the World Cup and trying to get noticed, I think, it's a really, really good spot to be.
Are you excited about Pochettino potentially?
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. And just big aspirations, I guess, for the U.S. So you kind of want the best, in everything you do. And I think having him come would be awesome. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, let's get into your early life. Could you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what it was like?
Yeah, a little misleading. I was born in Kansas. I was there for about 5 years. In Ohio for 2 years after that. So I would say the most substantial part of my childhood was in Connecticut, from 7, 8 on all the way through. Growing up mostly in Connecticut, I have 4 brothers and sisters. Everybody grew up playing soccer, so very competitive in the family, playing all the time. And even when I wasn't, obviously at their tournaments, their games. So and I guess you can see cousins, families, uncles, grandparents, obviously all heavily tied to soccer. So for me, mostly growing up in Connecticut.
Where did you stack in the rank of brothers and sisters for age?
Second youngest.
Youngest.
Yeah, so I was always fighting to keep up with the older ones.
Do you think that influenced the way you play soccer or grew up? Yeah.
I think so, for sure. I did, not totally being the youngest, I was still able to beat up on my little brother a bit, or playing against him and pushing him a bit. But I definitely think it kind of, shaped the way I play. And I think my desire also to play and get better and all of that.
Does having family that are so intertwined with the game of soccer, does that put a lot of pressure on you, or does that open up opportunity because you've got access to people that really know the game?
Yeah, I think more so opportunity. I don't think I ever felt pressure to play, or to, from parents, siblings, anything like that. I think it was more so like a shared experience, and also just, them wanting to sacrifice and wanting to, allow me to play at the highest level I could. And I think it was really, really nice having brothers and sisters who also, had those same aspirations. I think a lot of my early soccer memories are with my younger brother, and both of us, kind of pushing each other to be better, trying to beat each other's juggling records, or playing with each other, or, just shooting on each other, stuff like that. So for me, it was more so, I guess, pushing each other and giving each other the opportunities.
Soccer is extremely popular on the East Coast, and it's seen a big rise, especially with Premier League football really picking up in New York. Did you follow MLS, Premier League, La Liga? Were you a big watcher of football, or more just get out in the backyard and play with your brother?
Yeah, I think obviously playing with my younger brother, but both of us, obviously through FIFA, through watching games. Obviously, I think my first supporting team, I just fell in love with Ronaldo, and through that, watching more football, and then in a roundabout way became an Arsenal fan. And interesting story, but really enjoyed watching them, obviously as I became a teenager and stuff like that. So I think I definitely kind of felt the culture and wanting to watch, and that kind of, I guess, absorbed me into the game. And I think that is when I really was I want to push to be a professional player. I want to be like that. I want to, I guess, have that experience and try to push myself to, I guess, reach as high as I could.
So the team didn't let me know that you were an Arsenal fan. That's very exciting. They didn't. I didn't know you were an Arsenal fan. So I've been thrown off, questions out the window.
Perfect.
So you grew up watching Arsenal. Who were the players that you looked up to, tried to model your game on? Yeah,
obviously a little bit after Thierry Henry, and I think Van Persie, obviously a fantastic player, as a 9 for Arsenal, until a certain point. And I think that obviously continuing to watch Ronaldo outside of the Premier League, and kind of just seeing what he does, and someone that can be fantastic off the ball, but also somebody who is just a proven goal scorer, someone that for me, something I can like truly appreciate and truly learn from, just getting into really good spots. And just, I've always just kind of like had the notion that like goals change games, and like knowing and like being able to learn from that, I think for me is just something that like, I guess, drove me and like wanting to drive my development in that sense.
We had Jose Kojima on last time, and he said that he studied Kobe and his work ethic. Does having a sort of idol that's like Cristiano Ronaldo outside of what he does on the pitch, does the way that he works himself to the bone off the pitch, is that also like an inspiration of, if you want to get to the top, that's how you play?
Yeah, I think so. And I think like, obviously like talent is so important when it comes to football, but I also think that there's so many players with so much talent that also don't couple that with, hard work and work ethic, and, facing adversity, and like just having the drive to want to be better and want to improve themselves. And I think kind of seeing that, which I think is a very big portion of Ronaldo's success. Obviously he's, in the upper echelon of talent, but also in the same way, I think hard work as well. And I think for me, seeing somebody who's that talented, I think it kind of inspires you. Like if that person can work that hard and sacrifice so much, like, I think it kind of, for me, inspired me to also, want to work hard, work on my own, get better, like kind of try to reach to achieve that, because you may never achieve it, but I think, if you can, I guess, push yourself to the limits in terms of working, then, I think you'll be well on your way.
And the transfer window is nearly shut in the Premier League. You've seen Arsenal play 2 games this season. Are they going to do it this year?
Yes.
Fantastic. You heard it here first, people. That's what I wanted to know. Okay. Could you tell me what the soccer scene is like in Connecticut? It feels like every part of America has a slightly different vibe. Is it like St. Louis, or does it have its own identity?
Yeah. No, I think it's really unique. Obviously, outside of New York, you have so much talent in New York, surrounding New York and Boston. I kind of felt right in between Boston and New York. So, growing up playing Red Bull all the time, playing New England Revolution, as NYCFC came in, like all of those big clubs, but also seeing all the talent and pockets around it. And I think just like a really, in my mind, a hardworking culture of soccer. Like I played academy at Oakwood, and we never really had that connection to a professional team. So it was almost like we always played with a chip on our shoulder, and kind of, for me, I think instilled that, hard work mindset, and like kind of having to work for everything. And I think you can see that kind of in the football in that area. And yeah, I think for me, it's definitely almost baked into my DNA. Just like wanting to work hard, and like almost seeing it as like, if someone else won't do it, like I will, in a sense. And always having the pride to outwork your opponents in a way.
Were there any mentors along the way, that journey up, like through Oakwood, that really helped cement the way that you thought about the game?
Yeah, I think I had my academy coach who actually stayed with us throughout, Kevin Becher. He, for me, was, somebody that really pushed me. And even, obviously, if you had a really good game or stuff like that, like him telling me that, like, with, your talent at this age, like, you can push harder. And, like, wanting to challenge me in a sense that, like, never be satisfied with a performance or, like, stuff like that. And obviously, you can celebrate that and, like, set goals and achieve those goals, but kind of, I guess, in a sense, setting goals, which for me is another thing that is important to me, is like setting and trying to achieve goals no matter how unrealistic you may think they are, and also setting lesser goals, and so you can hit these along the way. And I think that's something that I've done since I was 16, and it's something I continue to do. But yeah, I think he really like almost instilled a sense of being humble, but also working really hard. And like, yeah, for me, it was incredibly important.
So the grandest ambition when you're a young player is being a professional. Some people that I speak to say they always knew that was going to happen. Some say they didn't expect it. Where was your mindset at in your sort of early teenage years about what the future could hold for you?
Of course, I always thought I could, but it's also, there's a gap between, believing you can and actually seeing a path. And I think for some people it's a little bit easier, signing homegrown deals and like, it's obviously one path. I think my path is extremely unique, being outside of an MLS academy, going to college. I actually almost forewent the opportunity to try to play professional. I was very, very like set on like going to an Ivy League school and trying to like further my education and put that ahead of my soccer. I ended up going to Holy Cross, which a very challenging school academically, and had a really good year. I was kind of in and out of under 20 camps. And I think that time was like, I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try like to achieve and to try to push like as much as I can. So that's when I transferred to SLU, and obviously having the background of producing professional players and speaking with Kevin Kalish and what he had planned for the program, I think in my mind that was the best place for me to try to pursue those dreams of being a professional. So I think for me that was kind of like when it clicked. Like when I was in those U20 camps, I was like, I can actually, I think I was one of two guys in those under 20 camps that weren't signed professionally. And being there, I was like, if I actually work and I get into a good place for me, then I think I can actually do it. So a little bit of a roundabout way, going 3.5 years in college and getting drafted. But I think that was the time it kind of clicked for me.
What were you pursuing education-wise?
Finance.
Yeah,
and I finished with my degree at St. Louis. So happy to say I did get it done. But yeah.
So you and Kyle share common goal there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So SLU, obviously a very revered school. What did you learn about your game when you took that step and you could see that there was a finish line?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just 1v1 work. I think, Kevin Kalish does so well, him and Kevin Stoll. Like when you come in as a player, they have like a whole sheet you fill out with what you want to do. You set goals for 6 months, a year, and then like by the time you graduate as well, and things that you have to fill out, like what you can work on, who can help you work on it, and like you sit down and like go through this meeting. I think through that, I think I was able to identify a lot of parts of my games that were weaknesses, and also things that are strengths that I can continue to build on, and like how I want to model my game. And I think in that sense, I kind of figured out who I was as a player and how I can be most effective in games. And I think it worked really well for me. And I think they were, again, in those years, like a massive step in like confidence in that I can actually do this at the highest level, and also just like helping me actually become better.
Sometimes as fans, we imagine that the path to the top is linear. Were there any moments on that SLU journey where you're like, this is not where I want to be? Was there like a sort of pivotal moment where things clicked?
Yeah, I think, throughout anyone's career, there's kind of, times when you question yourself, you question if it's worth it, you question if you're good enough and stuff. And I think coming into SLU, I actually was injured. I broke my foot. So I missed almost my entire first season. Came back, wasn't fully fit, wasn't something I was necessarily taking super serious, like my nutrition and like how I took care of myself off the field. And I think in that next year, COVID hit. So it was kind of like almost a long time for me not playing. And I think that was when I was sitting down with them and they're saying like, look, you can actually do this, but you have to be working at it. You have to be getting your nutrition right. You have to be doing all these things. And I think coming back out of that COVID thing, you can see with the SLU team that we had, we were, just a different group. And I think, I think in those moments, there's so many times that you doubt yourself or you question like, maybe I'll just, try to get a job or like not put everything into it. And I think they did a good job at kind of keeping you on the straight and narrow. And
What percentage of making it to a professional level do you think is psychological versus just pure talent?
I think a huge amount. And I think in your journey, I'm sure everyone can attest, you play with so many players that, are uber talented, that, are fantastic players that when it comes time and you face adversity, and it may be not getting into the squad, it may be an injury, it may be a coach, it may be everyone's going to face these things in their career. And I think it's how you respond and how you stay ready, and because those things aren't going to persist. And I think when you get opportunities and when you get moments, it's just making sure that you're as ready as you can be. And again, I think I've done a lot of work on the mental side of the game and trying to stay in a really good frame of mind, and try to take positives and positive self-talk, and all these things that I think are starting to get talked about more, that I think need to be talked about more. Because if you look at so many of the top players, they spend a lot of time working on their mentality and talking about the same things that guys who might be in college or high school are going through, about confidence, about am I good enough, going through times when you don't score for a striker, or it's a lot of it is how you continue to respond to that, because it's not something that you just solve, it's something that's completely ongoing.
Just to go slightly off topic, because you mentioned their mental health, City has a campaign called Tackle the Struggle, which is about giving people tools to deal with their struggles, whatever they are. I wondered if you had any tips for young players coming through that have really helped you on that front.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is when you realize that you're not alone, because I think in so many different parts of mental health, you can feel like you're the only person that feels this, or you're the only person that ever goes through this. Or you see people playing in front of 25,000 people or in a Champions League final, and you're like, oh, they don't have to go through this. And what you end up realizing is you're all kind of going through the same place, whether you're playing high school, rec, in whatever level. Everyone goes through doubts of confidence. Everyone goes through times where things off the pitch can feel like it's much more important than what you're doing on the pitch. And there's a lot of things with family, or things with coaches, and things like that for me, I think realizing that everyone's kind of going through the same thing, and being able to talk about it and find someone that you can talk about it with is, for me, the biggest first step, because I think sometimes the first step can be the hardest. And I think just having the realization that it's okay to talk about that, it's okay to go to somebody who you trust, to kind of, I guess, share in that experience, so you don't have to go through that alone.
That's great advice. Speaking of SLU, you spent some time with Johnny Klein. How good was it coming back and meeting up with him again, but in a professional environment?
Yeah, obviously, both of us, different journeys to get back to City. But no, fantastic. I mentioned a little bit earlier that, the SLU team we had there, which was, a really, really special group. And then, to obviously, stay connected as you go apart, and then to come back together is something pretty cool, because, in your career, you can end up anywhere, and you can end up going anywhere in a pretty quick amount of time. So just obviously enjoying it when you're in the same place with somebody, and obviously happy that he's been playing so well, and he's been on the team. So yeah, great to be back with him.
Was there before we move off for SLU, what was the most important lesson that you learned through the period? You've had your ups and downs, you've had your glory. What was the one thing that you'll always take away from that experience? Yeah,
I think for me, I would say maybe just to, believe in yourself, and just to just set goals really high, because obviously St. Louis hadn't had that soccer glory in the men's program in quite a while, and so it's something we talk about, getting back to it and trying to make this a national powerhouse again. And I think sometimes it can seem far away, but just continuing to put in the work and continuing to keep your eyes set on that goal, you can see that it's something that is fully attainable.
Dream big. I love it. So let's talk about early professional career. What was the transition like into? Well, let's talk about how you got into the professional game. Tell us the story.
Yeah. So after my final year at St. Louis, I was drafted to Vancouver. And so obviously went there. And the way it works is, usually unless you have a Generation Adidas contract, it's, not a guaranteed first team deal.
Did anybody speak to you before that? Or do you just go into that completely blind?
You do talk to some teams. I think I had talked to, and it's, very informal, just, them trying to get a feel of who you are. And, but I hadn't talked to Vancouver at all. I had, a couple teams that were like, oh, if you're available at this spot, like, we're probably going to take you, or like, we're looking for a forward, like you're at the top of our list, or you're close to the top. It's between, depending who's available. Didn't talk to Vancouver at all. And they took me. So definitely interesting, because a lot of times with the draft, stuff like that can happen. You don't always know. Sometimes, you know for sure, and sometimes you have no clue. So yeah, no idea.
What was the feeling like? You've gone from East Coast to the middle of the country, and now you're going right over. Yeah. Like, were you excited? Did you know much about Vancouver? I mean, it's a beautiful place to live, right?
Yes, it is. I knew pretty much nothing about it, other than, what you can Google. And yeah, going there was, obviously really far from home, about as far as you could get. And yeah, definitely a new experience, something, again, you have to adapt to, something, in this world, being a professional athlete, you have to be ready for the uncertain, and you have to be able to take the uncertain on, head on. So yeah, I think definitely a huge time of growth when I was there. And for me, I thought, something I really needed, and something that I guess helped me, continue to be successful.
Did you move on your own?
My girlfriend came with me, which helped a lot. And she played for St. Louis for the women's team, and she's Canadian, so it worked out perfect for her. So she was thrilled.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So she was able to come out and be out there with me, no problem. So
when you landed in Vancouver, was it straight in with the first team, or was it like in with the first team for a little bit, then MLS Next?
Yeah, so I was in with the first team for pretty much all of preseason.
What was that first training session like? Did it feel very different? Were you nervous? Did you think I'm going to smash someone over and make a statement early on? Like, what was the thought?
Yeah, obviously just like a ball of emotions. Excited, nervous. Obviously, like you said, wanting to prove yourself, wanting to, have the best foot forward. So I think mostly excited. I try not to let myself get, too nervous in any moments, more so just trying to enjoy it, and be in a new environment. I can say it was just a big step up. It's just fast, everything's much faster. But throughout preseason, obviously adjusted pretty well. And I think from their end, none of the draft picks were signed to the first team. And I think that was kind of their sentiment to start, that they didn't really have room. It was the first year for Next Pro, so they kind of took the approach is, we're going to let you all go to the Next Pro team, train with the first team sometimes, and we'll kind of gauge from there, because I don't think they really had or wanted to dedicate a portion of the roster for that.
So you get a call up, and the debut was quite good, right?
Yes, it was.
Talk me through. I'd love to know, do you get alerted early that there's going to be a start, or you're going to come on, or is it just turn up on the day? Like, how does all that work?
Yeah, I think I will shout out Next Pro a little bit. It does help so much that you're able to train with the first team, and just pop right up, or go up and down. And so I felt fairly familiar with everyone on the first team, and throughout the year, having the whole preseason there, training with them sometimes, it makes you feel comfortable. Yeah. So that on that day, like, I think we had some injuries, and so you kind of have an idea, they might be pulling up a forward. I was playing pretty well for the second team. I'd scored in the past couple of games. So obviously when you get the call up, then it's not like, what's everyone thinking of me? What's like, I have to like impress these, like, them, they kind of know you. So then it's just football. And, you go out on the day, and, obviously going with the mindset of any opportunity I get, I'm going to, just try to smash it, just, put everything into it, help the team as a forward, obviously want to be pressing, want to be winning balls, want to be, getting into really good spots. basically, doing everything you can. And the ball came across, I think it deflected, and I just reacted well. I tried to get myself in a good position, and I think it might have been my first touch or second touch in MLS. So
what was the rush like after that?
Unbelievable. And yeah, so obviously a really good feeling, a really, really high. And, again, I think, you kind of have to level yourself back out after it and, again, be ready for the next opportunity.
Then once you get a taste for that and you feel like, you can live in this world, like how different is it being an MLS Next Pro to being, I'm in first team contention regularly?
Yeah. I think, again, another moment where you're like, I can actually do this. I can be successful at this level, and I can be someone who is actually changing games for the team. And I think if you fast forward to where, they told me, we're going to keep you on with the first team, we're going to sign you for next year. I think going in with the mentality of like, anytime I get in, I can change the game. I can score, I can help the team, and I can prove again that, I belong here and that, I'm someone that can make a difference.
Were there any players on the first team that really helped you through that period of your first year as an MLS pro?
Yeah, I think biggest probably Brian White. He took a very similar path to me. Went through Duke, went to Red Bull, played for their second team. Got signed to the first team, came out to Vancouver, and obviously, a fantastic striker. And I think, the entire year, him just reiterating to me that like you belong here, like helping me, learn the ins and outs, getting ready to start my first game, play substantial minutes, just all of those things. Really helped me take really big strides in my career. And I think gave me the confidence that, I belong here and that I can, be successful.
When you reflect on the feelings that you had early on, what was it like going to training every day? Was it a feeling of joy? Like you said, you had the chip on the shoulder from the start. You weren't part of a MLS academy.
Right.
Or was it stress? I've got to keep my place in the team. Like how do you focus in the first year and learn to adapt to your new world?
Yeah, I think definitely, coming in with a chip on your shoulder, but also coming in with like the positive of like, I'm going to do everything I can to, prove to the training staff, to, the coaches, to all of the players that I belong here. And I think for me, like that kind of instilled the work where like, I'm going to get in early. I'm going to do all my stuff. I'm going to be healthy no matter what. Like I'm going to do all of these things to the best of my ability, just so that like, I can show them that like, I belong here. And so that when I'm on training and like, I can be performing to the best of my ability, and I can be proving to them that like, okay, this guy belongs. I don't want any other outside reason to like think that like, oh, maybe he doesn't belong here. Or, oh, maybe this. So I think a chip on your shoulder, but also coming in with the mentality of I'm not going to let anyone do anything else better than me. No one's going to work harder than me. No one's going to be more prepared. No one's going to be more fit. Like all of those things, I think when you couple that with, football and ability and stuff like that, which I think, for me is a pretty good recipe.
From a family perspective, were there any moments where you have family in the stands that you'll always remember? Yeah,
a couple. Vancouver wasn't, obviously very close to family, and you get notified on pretty short notice. So my family actually wasn't able to make my debut in Vancouver, but my girlfriend was there. So like, in that sense, like she's been a part, like with me for a long part of this journey and through a lot of the ups and downs. So that was really special. And then I think coming here and, I was actually in St. Louis, having a lot of family here, starting a game, playing at a packed city park as an away player. I think having all of them there for me was like incredibly special. And yeah, they actually came, my family, they didn't just abandon me. They came to some of the other away games and some of my other call-ups. I didn't play in them. But no, for that was really special to do it, obviously in a place that means so much to my family as well. I think it was really, really special. But yeah.
Was anyone nudging you when they came over to you at the sidelines to say, maybe you should try and get a move here?
Yeah, I think for the past 4 or 5 years, a lot of people have been nudging me to like, hey, St. Louis is getting a soccer team, or like, oh, do you see the new stadium coming in? Like, yeah, you should you should think about it. And then, obviously not much control on my end, but happy it eventually came to fruition.
So before we talk about City, you got moved to Europe, AC Horsens.
Yes.
How did that come about? What's the story?
Yeah, I think for me, wanting more opportunities, wanting to continue to push myself, not allow myself to get comfortable. I think the opportunity came up, and playing in Europe for me is something, of course, any footballer dreams about. And so, yeah, I went there with a really open mind, and, went there with the idea that I'd be playing a lot. And I did. I started a lot of games, accumulated a lot of minutes in the short time that I was there. And I think for me as a player, it's something I had to do. I didn't really have the starts and the minutes to kind of back as a player, you need to be playing games. So to go over there and do that, I think it was important, to find ways as a player and as a forward, to find ways, to press effectively, to, when you're tired, how are you resting in defense? How are you, helping your team get through really difficult moments in the game, which is for me something I think I learned a lot while I was there that I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to learn in Vancouver, because I was usually coming on with about 20 minutes to go, or, relieving, a starter of, their starting duties for maybe once a month, or in ways like that. So yeah, I thought it was really, really important for me to go and, to adapt to a new league, and I enjoyed it a lot, to be honest. But yeah.
What was it like adapting to a completely new culture? I mean, I'm British, and going over to Denmark, it's just a completely different world. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. It helps that everyone speaks English. I think if they didn't, I think I would have had a very different experience. But no, I enjoyed it a lot, and I enjoyed adapting to the new, style of football, I guess. And yeah, it was honestly a really positive experience for me. And
did you like the travel? Being able to access the
Yes.
whole of Europe? Was that good for vacation time?
Yes. My girlfriend loved that. So yeah, it was nice to be over there, and I think I obviously learned a lot on and off the field. And yeah, honestly, nothing but good things to say.
What was your favorite place to go to on vacation?
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
Unbelievable city. Yeah, we went to the south of France, but it's too expensive for me. So
yeah,
but we liked it a lot. But yeah,
awesome. So you came back. You're back on loan.
Mm-hmm.
How did who did you know at the club? Because it's usually John Hackworth.
Mm-hmm.
We usually start with John Hackworth, but I don't know whether that's the case here. But how did the move to St. Louis come about? What was the motivation behind playing here?
Yeah, I think Coach Hackworth and my agent have been talking for about 3 years now.
It's always Hack.
Yeah, it's always Hack. And I think it was never the right timing. It never worked out, and always something had gotten in the way. And yeah, it actually went very, very quickly. And I think the direction that the club was going in Denmark, with new owners, new sporting director, new coaches. My agent reached out, and I think it happened really, really quickly within a day. And obviously they were pretty familiar with me from my time at SLU and my time in MLS, and they thought, and likewise on my side and my agent's side, just thinking that it's somewhere I would fit in really well, just style of play wise, regardless of the fact that it was in St. Louis. So yeah, both sides were really, really excited for it, and we wanted to get it done as quick as possible. So just really happy it ended up working out. And yeah.
Did you know what to expect from John as a coach?
I obviously never have played under him, but I know he's a really demanding coach. Wants players that are honest, want players that will work, and that will play for the team and for the badge. And I think I think a lot of his philosophies are things I also see in myself, so kind of a no-brainer in a sense.
What was it like coming back? Was it like a homecoming? Who did you get on the phone to first after you got the call about that?
I obviously called my family, and there's 7 of us, so just a nice big
lot of phone calls.
letting my grandparents know as well, because they have lived here their whole life as well. And then it actually broke before I was able to break the news, so I was scrambling and people were reaching out to me, so I didn't have much time to tell everybody. They already have found out through Twitter or Instagram or wherever they saw it. But no, definitely exciting to let everyone know, because everyone was obviously ecstatic for me. So,
and did John like lay out a mission? Like, here's the objective, here's what I'm signing you for? Did he give you like specifics, or did he just like, listen, I want you to come join the squad and see where we go?
Not necessarily, but I think, we kind of had a good idea of, how I would fit in and, what I would bring to the team. And, I think, again, bringing, the hard work and just, I guess, a lot of what the team is about. They want guys that, will work for the team, that, will sacrifice for the team. And again, I think it was somewhere I could continue to grow my career and continue to take a step up and a bigger role. And yeah, for me and the talks that I had with Lutz and with Hack were, all really positive. And I think we thought it would be a great spot for me. So
did it help knowing St. Louis and knowing what the fans were going to want? Like, when you step out onto that pitch, fans love you already. Like, you got a relentless work rate, you're popping up with goals, putting it all on the line for the team. Did you know that the fans were going to gravitate towards you as quickly as they did, or was it a surprise?
A little bit of a surprise, but then again, I think the culture of St. Louis around their sports teams and I think it's unparalleled. So I think that like the city really gets behind its teams and they care, and they come and they sacrifice so much of their time and money and in their life to support the city. And I think it's so unique and obviously amazing. So it did surprise me, but in a sense it also because of how much they cared, it doesn't surprise me that much.
What was the locker room like when you landed?
Fantastic.
How you found it?
Yeah, everyone, I think, again, credit to Lutz and Hack and everyone in the club that brings players in. It's such a tight-knit group, and a lot of places it's not easy to bring in as many people that were brought in the summer window. And everyone just, welcomed everyone in really well. On and off the pitch, everyone's been fantastic, wanting to help, and just going the extra mile to make sure that you're comfortable, you're introduced to everybody, invited to things outside of training and outside of the day-to-day. So yeah, everyone's been honestly fantastic, and I think it's a credit to the type of people that are in the locker room and the personalities and characters that I think are reflected through the club.
Is it easier to come into a dressing room that's in a state of high turnover because there's a number of you that are new? Did that help? Have you gravitated towards the new players more, or have you been welcomed in by perhaps some people that you knew before?
I wouldn't say it's easier or harder. I think, at least in this experience, everyone was, equally as, welcoming and stuff like that. Obviously you are in the same boat as some of the people, but coming in as new, but I think everyone's done that in their career. And so everyone kind of has experience and knows what it's like to be the new person in the room. So everyone in that sense was obviously great.
And how has it been forming connections with the people that are feeding balls in behind you? Like, what's that experience been like? Yeah,
it's been really good. And, luckily, we had some time to work some of the kinks out and kind of get to know each other, and, a good stretch of training and games before we got into MLS play. So I think that was really valuable for a lot of the team, just to, get to know what type of players they are and, what they look for and, what they expect of you and what you expect of them. So yeah, it's honestly been a really good transition on the field.
And it's always interesting to hear players describe who they are on the team. Like, could you describe like how you see yourself? Like, what is your position and what do you offer for the team? Then why are they putting you on the pitch every week?
Yeah, I think I'm somebody that brings a lot of energy. I hope I'm somebody that you don't want to play against. Somebody that, will chase down balls, will get into players, will, obviously work for the team. And I think I'm someone that scores goals and someone that gets into good spots and somebody that, can propel us to win and can change games. And, I think for me, I kind of take pride, as I said earlier, in my hard work and my pressing and being that first line of defense. So, I think that's why I get into the team. And, that's why, people should be excited that I'm here.
Did it feel special putting on a City Red shirt and playing there? Was it different?
100%. Yeah. And I know that the stadium's not usually like how it was in the tournament that we were playing. And I'm excited for this weekend because I think it's going to be an amazing atmosphere.
It's going to be a packed house.
Yes, it is.
All the tickets have sold out. Supporters are going to bring their noise. Does the rest of the squad feel excited that it's going to be a packed house again? Everybody's going to be on top form. Does that drive training a little bit? Everybody wants to be in that starting 11? Definitely.
Yeah, I think we've had in the heat some killer sessions this week, but it's a good thing to look forward to, having a game that, is going to be packed, that's going to be sold out, that's going to be against a really good team as well. And especially when you have a good feeling about yourself and there's a good feeling in the squad that we can really go toe to toe with anybody. And when we're playing well and, we're doing what we want to do, we can play with anybody. So I think for us, that's the excitement that we have around it. And obviously with all the fans being back, it just adds to it.
And I know that you focus on your game first and foremost, but you must look over at the other team sheet. Are you excited to play against a player of the caliber of Marco Reus?
Yeah, of course. I think, whenever you play as a player, you want to play against the best of the best, and, you want to test yourself against the best of the best. So I think I can only speak for myself, but you're excited for it, but you're also excited to beat them. And I don't think it's going to be in a way of, over respect. I think we see that, he's here, but we're also here and we're also going to come out and do what we do. And I think in that sense, that's almost more of an excitement than, sharing the field with him.
And what are your objectives for the rest of the season? How are you looking at it?
Personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, helping the squad get into playoffs, scoring goals, winning games. There's a lot of games we need to win. So I think for me, in a fully healthy squad, I think coming in and changing games, if I'm called upon to be starting, then, doing everything I can, leaving everything on the pitch. And, if it's in a different role and coming off the bench, I think, that's just as an important role as it is starting. You come on and you have the opportunity to change games and you have the opportunity to win valuable points. So, for me, it's, taking every opportunity I'm given and, staying present in the moment. And, for that, it's LA Galaxy on Sunday. And then, when we're in New England, it's going to be, whatever role I'm given by Hack in New England and taking that to the fullest extent.
Fantastic. And we have a little tradition at the end of the show. The last question is for you to give a message direct to the fans. They're very excited to have you in the starting 11. So if you've got a message for the fans, take it away.
Let's pack City Park. It's going to be a great day. And I've looked forward to playing in front of a packed City Park for a long time, wearing a red shirt, not a blue one. So, really excited for that. And 3 points will make it even sweeter.
Fantastic. Simon, that was a brilliant 50 minutes or whatever we just did. Thank you for coming on the show. Good luck at the weekend.
You.
And hopefully, if you leave enough 5-star reviews, Simon will come back on later on next year. And on that note, I'll say ciao for now. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.